Welcome to Weeks Ahead AI, where business owners learn how to use AI to save time, cut costs, and stay weeks ahead.
All right, welcome back to Weeks Ahead AI. I'm Brad. We've got Mitch again and Terry. We've got a special guest today, Josh Knutson. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Josh, we're kind of tagging this one from therapy couch to tech founder. So you've really kind of had quite the journey. We're excited to hear all about it today.
All right. Well, I'll introduce Josh. I met Josh actually pre-COVID, I believe, with another startup that he had, and it was a company called Rhythm. And why don't you just tell us just a brief explanation of what that was and why you're here now?
Yeah, what I'm doing now will feel completely non sequitur when I describe what I did then. But Rhythm was it was a mental health app, generally speaking, mostly for kids. So it was a little check-in, tell us how you're doing, and then we launched clinical content that was all like a minute or two in length to like help kids learn how to be good humans, get ready to learn, be better learners in the classroom. That's the basic premise of that one.
And that was you were involved in that because in your former life, right? You were a psychologist.
Indeed, I was. Hence the title. Yeah. So started out. Got a bachelor's degree in psychology, master's degree in mental health counseling and behavioral medicine. That was the path. I was going to be a therapist and was for a little while. And then, now tech founder. So things went differently than I planned. But
Off the rails.
Yeah, that's right. In a good way.
In a good way,
but he did a fantastic job in that previous business, and had a successful exit of that business, and then fast forward a few years later, actually, Josh, I picked up the phone because Mitch was working on something. Then I said, hey, I think you may need to talk to this guy. And we go talk to Josh, have lunch with him. And as we're leaving casually, he says, hey, I'm doing this new thing now. And we're like, wait a minute. We just spent an hour talking to you about this, and in the last 5 minutes he gives us all the gold about what he's doing today. So we'll get into that a little more later.
And he saved us a ton of money.
Yes, he did.
Because we were about to maybe spend a bunch on getting some software built.
You don't need to do that.
And Josh said, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I think he told you were about to spend 10x of what you should spend.
Yeah.
And he was right. I mean, knowing now,
he was more than right.
Yeah, more than right. Yeah. Well, so you're doing something different though. You've exited that and moved on from there, and so now you've started a new venture here. Tell us a little bit about it. So for our listeners, we're gonna take this episode and kind of do two episodes with Josh, and this first one will be a little more general AI and kind of small business approaches to using it, much of what we talk about on a regular basis. Our second episode with Josh, we're going to take a deeper dive into Lium, and he'll give us a little intro on that. But that's a really interesting product and technology you're working on. So we'll take a much deeper dive in that second episode. But go ahead and tell us what you're working on.
I mean, just, I think at a very high level, narratively, it was just sort of, I experienced, the ChatGPTs of the world came out and started playing with it and sort of learned, whoa, there's a lot you can do with these tools. At the time, I was working at the company that had bought my company, and they were a company that had a lot of data. And so we started building tools around extracting insights and interrogating that data using language models. You could sort of ask questions. They had spent years building analytics on top of that data that gave them like 4 to 5 variables out of it. Yeah. But then with language models, all of a sudden, you could extract any new variable from it. As fast as you could think of a question to ask, you could pull that information out with some orchestration, obviously some software engineering underneath the hood, which was exciting. But I was sort of it's kind of an easy problem with text. It was a bunch of text data. And me and my current co-founder started thinking about, well, that is true of the physical world too. There is just a ridiculous amount of data out there, anywhere in manufacturing, in the sciences, just all over the place. When you think about what's happening in the physical world, there's data, and it is gargantuan, dwarfing what, ChatGPT was trained on in text or the internet. So then we started thinking, well, what does it look like to extract insights and information from that data at the speed of thinking? How can we accelerate humanity, and how can we, well, there's a whole lot we can go into on that, but that was the idea, and that was also a much harder problem, and sort of much more fun to think about. And so, jumped and started that company, and we can dig into that one on the other side. But that's the main premise.
We'll do that. We'll spend a lot more time, but just a highlight of it for me anyway. Hearing that you discovered a black hole using these tools, is something like that.
Yeah. So the whole thing was born out of this partnership with the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. So we have sort of a collaborative relationship with a team there of researchers. They're astronomers, astrophysicists, and we didn't discover it. There was a known black hole that they had found, and it was a I don't even know. It's a low mass, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but some like very rare object, and they knew that it existed in this data set, but it had taken them years to have found it. And they wondered, can this system that we built, could it have found it much faster? And so it's sort of an experiment for us to see. It.
How long?
I don't know, 10, 20 seconds. It's like, are there any weird things in this? And it was like, yeah, here's one. And we were like, yeah, okay, that's,
That's
so
incredible.
that's the exciting thing about being able to now take that and go do it all over the place, right?
Very cool. Well, so I'm curious how we're going to, again, take another much deeper dive in Lium in our next episode, or a future episode, those that want to learn more about that. Very cool product. But I want to back up to talk about your background in psychology and thinking, everybody's kind of hearing a lot about, we're talking a lot about AI and kind of how it's going to ultimately decimate the human race, right? And so I think that's where we're headed. It's something like that. That's what everybody tells me anyway. So, but no, just kind of, just the parallels, and you've spent a lot of time learning and observing and thinking about how humans think and interact and feel and what their emotions are. Now you're spending a lot of time on the machine side of things. What parallels, and obviously some differences, I'm sure, but do you see in kind of humans versus machines in these large language models?
Ah, man. Well, I think this is the one of the more fascinating things about the whole space is that on the surface they appear very similar, and yet they're just completely and utterly different. It's not even remotely the same underlying mechanisms. And so,
when I ask ChatGPT a question, it responds like it feels like a human would, right?
Yeah.
Especially if I'm talking to it.
Yeah.
But the what's underlying is so different.
No, I mean there's so when you type something into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, right? And you know when it responds, it kind of like does that little like jumpy like streaming thing. Every time one of those happens, every jump is something like 100 million mathematical calculations underneath the hood that are happening, right? And I mean, there's some parallel there in that, like every time I move my finger, there's a lot
going on.
there's a lot happening, right? But it is, it's very, very different. These models, these systems are fundamentally they're just math underneath the hood, and there's sort of this veneer of them looking and acting like us, but they're fundamentally just statistics, just linear algebra is really what's happening underneath the hood. I mean, that's getting a little heady, but I mean, and I think that's the people that have the fear of the world-ending fears of AI. I mean, I think that's part of the thing is that they don't think in the way that we think, and they don't reason and have emotions in the way that we do. And it's even to say they is to anthropomorphize more than maybe we should, right? These systems our math. And if that math goes in ways that we didn't anticipate, then yeah, it could get weird. But there's also, let me be clear, there are people that are dramatically smarter than me in this area that are working on this problem, and I'm not terribly afraid that it's gonna annihilate us all in the near future, at least.
So who do you trust more from the development of the algebra delivering us each model?
Who do I trust more? Man, it's hard to say. Who is it? Someone said, if you want to know, if you want to understand someone, look at their incentives. And I think that is the main problem is we're building this in a world where the incentives are not ones that align to being particularly trustworthy. It's the reality. So I think if you ask who do I trust, it's maybe the ones like if you're familiar with like the Ilya Sutskever's of the world, who like no longer have incentives, like they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they make their own incentives, and their incentive is for themselves. They want to actually do something good. And so I think I trust incentives more than people, and so I look for the people who have the right incentives. I mean, I love ChatGPT and OpenAI is great, but their incentive structure is one that I don't necessarily love the trajectory of all the time.
Yeah.
But now we're getting very philosophical here.
Yeah. Well, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Yeah. Bring it back to money, which is where Terry likes to talk about.
We just left it.
Yeah. Here's where I'm really interested. If you go back, I mean, you founded Rhythm in what year?
2019, February 14th, 2019,
okay.
Valentine's Day. Yeah, never lived
February
that one down.
of 2019. February of 2019. And if you go back today, how would AI maybe have changed what you did at Rhythm? Oh, God. And that's only 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Oh, man. Unbelievable. Well, I think I'll back up a little bit just to, I was a therapist coming into that company, right? I was building a software company, and I left being a therapist because I sort of knew I'm good at learning and kind of felt like I could probably do more than that, and wanted to have a bigger impact than I could an hour at a time, one person, 1 hour. And so when I came into this building software, I had literally no idea what I was doing. I mean, I don't know if the listeners will know what a front end and back end in a database is, but like, I didn't even understand this concept at all. And this is just like engineering 101. And so I'm all of a sudden trying to run a software company, and I'm also trying to run a business. I'd never run a business before in my life. Well, I guess I ran a small business where we ran a daycare out of our house for a while. It was the only business. And I guess when I was a kid, I mowed lawns, but, all of a sudden I'm running financial spreadsheets, and we're doing millions of dollars in revenue. And I'm just like, I have no idea what I was doing. So learning all of that on the fly was extremely hard back then. Yeah. And the pace that we could go was the sort of pace that I could learn new things, because a lot of the company was bottlenecked through me. Now, the capacity to learn something is, what would take me months, even quarters to learn then, I can learn in minutes now, because I can really, where before you type it into Google and then you go read the blog and the Stack Overflow and this and that, and, you spend a day or two researching. Now I just ask the exact question that I want to know as specifically as I possibly can think to ask it. And I get the perfect answer back. And then I can iterate. Oh, well, what about this? Oh, what about if I think about it from this angle, and it can just keep going. So the pace I can learn. So that's the biggest thing that it would have changed, is the capacity to learn.
Or are you just looking it up every time?
Is there? Yeah, that's a
this is the crazy
question.
thing, man. Actually, this is a scary thing and an exciting thing at the same time. Maybe for people who are trying to think about applying this practically. Because now what I'll do is I ask a question of the model, and then the next step is actually not to try to fully ingest all that information and like learn it myself, but then to say, okay, if I did learn this, what would be the next step I would do? And then I go, like, I'll have ChatGPT and the one I'm trying to learn over here. I take whatever it says. I don't even read it. Just copy it. I go to Claude and I say, hey, here's this information. If you knew this, what would you do here? You know, and then I just have Claude do it. And then I'll go back and forth. So yeah, actually, what's scary about that is there's a lot of people talk about, like, you sort of atrophy your thinking and learning, right? You don't have to think as much anymore. But I think what's exciting about it is that you actually do have to think even harder, but at a higher level of abstraction. You got to, like, pop up and say, well, what am I actually trying to accomplish here? And what would be the sequence of things I would need to know? And once I learn that, what would I do with that next? And then what would I do with that when the output of that action step, how would that go into the next one, right? So it's sort of more of a sequential, structural, abstract thinking that has to be done, as opposed to sort of needing to be in the weeds. You just let the language model do all the weeds for you. So it's actually a really good question.
I totally I totally get it. Like, that is good job, Mitch.
See that coming.
So
I'm done
You're
for the
tearing
day.
up.
I'm done.
so can we fast forward to Lium and say, you know, what sort of problem are you solving today with Lium?
Well, I mean, I think this goes to that, actually the same question, which is how quickly can
Please
you...
don't say that, Josh. It's the same question, because I'm going to get railed from you.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, just don't cut him off.
Oh, what terrible hosts. No. Look, this was the thing, is that once you realize that you can learn that quickly, and then, you know, when you take it, sort of what I just described, and then you can we start to get very technical here, but you can design that as a sort of agentic workflow, because if you know kind of what the steps are, then that entire process can become done autonomously. And then the thing can self-learn and self-build and do all of that. But if you want to do that, if you want to learn and build and think about really hard, complicated information that is massive and numerical, these models can't do it yet, right? And so that's the thing we wanted to solve. For example, the one we always talk about is like subsurface, you know, like oil and gas exploration or just resource exploration. If you take these, you go do a seismic survey, you get a 2 terabyte cube of amplitude values, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go try to upload that to ChatGPT and ask it to do anything. You can't,
So
right?
you don't have a external hard drive big enough to hold some of that data at times. So
Well,
feeding all that in one chunk to an existing LLM is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, a million token context window, some of the biggest context windows are like 4 megabytes, basically, is what that holds. And so if you try to do with this, you just can't. So it was this realization that there are people that are brilliant out there. There's the physicists, the astrophysicists working with, there's the geoscientists, there's these people that that will be able to do much more with this tool than I can do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not even that, there's people that are also are brilliant in process engineering and process control and manufacturing and running equipment. And there's so much that can be done that I can't even think to do. But if they try to do that right now, they won't be able to, because their data and the information that they want to think and interrogate and learn from is too big, too complex, too heavy for these things. But that's not to say it's impossible. It just needs some clever orchestration, and that's what we're building.
That's what you're doing.
We want to make that possible, so
That's
you can
cool.
ask those questions and yeah.
You're on it. Well, I think, Mitch, you mentioned earlier where you met Josh was when you had an idea to build an app, and he told you, don't do that. You're wasting your time. Or, there's a better way or a different way. And so you see that now. But I guess, Josh, I want to ask you, just kind of stepping back now, that was, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months ago?
June,
Yeah, a year ago.
May, June.
And so you've come to that realization. You were seeing that way ahead of the curve, kind of what AI could do to build these tools faster. What are you seeing? For our listeners that are just small business operators and owners, and kind of thinking about, how do I get started with AI? What's your advice to them? Ways to, like, don't do that anymore. start doing this
yeah,
now.
Yeah.
That's the old
This
way.
is why I brought this to write these things down so I can take a couple quick notes and make sure I don't forget a couple of these. Because the first one is well, if you're not watching this, I'm typing on my computer. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
What I was just talking about is learning, right? That's
Right.
one thing that these tools can help you with. And I say this a lot, you know, if you are still in the mindset of you go to Google, or even if you go to ChatGPT and you type your question as like the old school way of like, I don't know,
Food
like,
near me.
yeah, food near me, like dog, fleas, what do, you know, like that thing, right? Like, stop doing that, you know, like ask, you know, I've said before they're not human, but you should treat it that way. Like you have to think about like, what if I had, you know, Mitch sitting next to me? What would I say to him? How would I ask him the question? I wouldn't be like, dog, fleas, help, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really big one actually, because
Yep.
you have to, you can be really intelligent and targeted, and you can get much better answers, and you can learn really quickly. I think the other is to open your mind to the possibility that it's like there's almost a sort of muscle that develops when you realize what it's capable of, to just be like, oh, I think I could ask it that, you know, or I think I could have it build that for me, you know, like, and then if you're like, can it do that? Well, I'll tell you a good way to figure out. Go ask it if it can do that, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one. I would tell people to do. I think, yeah, go ahead.
Well, we had a dinner last April with some business owners, and we had you come in and speak that night. And I'm pretty sure it was you. I've been giving you credit for it anyway. That you're saying, if you can imagine having an expert on any topic at your disposal at any given point in the day, why wouldn't you use that person? Why wouldn't you use that expert? Wasn't I think that was you.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. So that's when I was first sort of training myself to think to use these things. That's what I imagine. I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, all right, there's this, like, I actually did this. It was very strange. I'm sorry. But I set a chair next to me and faced it at me. And I thought to myself, if there was a person who was an absolute genius in all topics sitting there in a given day, what would I do with that person? And then every time I come up with like, oh, I think I should ask the person here. And then I would go to, you know, Claude or whatever, and I would ask him. So I think it's a good way to actually think about it. Yeah.
And Terry said that enough now that he owns that.
Yeah.
You can have it. It's good. Yeah.
I've heard him give himself
He
credit
is-
for that one.
Not true, but
Yeah. Well, the other one I related to that same topic is the one I would tell, and I think it's kind of what I was saying to Mitch, is these like software engineering tasks that you used to think you needed to go get a software firm, you
Right.
know, to figure out. And, you know, you find one in America, they're going to quote you $150,000. You find one in India, they'll quote you $50,000, but you don't need them anymore.
And they all charge you like $200 at the end of it, right?
Yes. And then there's this massive scope creep, and you have these. The other thing is they won't, you know, there's this sort of discipline and an art to like building good software, even if you're working with someone, and like being the product thinker that kind of designs and decides what to do. And that's what these AI tools are way better at than those firms will be at like giving you feedback, you know, like, I think maybe what if you did it this way? So that's, you know, tools like Lovable are out there. I mean, if you're, you know, you want to be a pro user, go get Cursor or Claude Code. But if you're thinking about building websites nowadays, like this, you know, simple apps that are, you know, you kind of have a clear idea of what it should be in your head. You don't need those. And frankly, if you do need help, go find yourself somebody with a little bit of expertise using those tools, and hire them as a consultant.
Yeah.
They're gonna be a whole lot cheaper than the engineering firm. So I think that's another huge one for people to do.
Lovable's a tool that we haven't spent much time on. Should probably dive into a little more.
Yeah, very similar to Bolt.new. Very similar functionalities.
Okay.
That's the fastest growing revenue company in the history of the world.
Lovable?
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
Don't quote
You
me
heard
on
it
that.
here first.
But yeah, Google that one. Don't Google it. Ask Claude. That's another. By the way, seriously, this is the other thing. FYI, like these things nowadays, if you're not using them, pay for the subscription. If you actually, okay, you should. It's worth it. They do web search too, so they're also like the kind of silly Google query you used to do. They'll do those queries for you, and then they'll consolidate the information and answer it. You know, so they'll do the Googling on your behalf.
So I think what he's saying, small businesses, stop using Google first. That's your very first step. Just stop.
So I have a good question.
We'll be the judge of that.
I think I do. You had a good exit at Rhythm. What sort of multiplier do you think you would have gotten if you had AI the whole time?
Good question.
Man, yeah, that's good.
How much more productive would he have been? Is that what you're asking?
Well,
If you sold it for $5, would it have been 50?
I see.
You know, so I think we would have gotten where we got to faster, and we would have gotten further. I don't know. So then in that sense, we would have had a better exit because we would have had, everything would have been
More
further
growth.
along.
Yeah.
But insofar as if we had created exactly what we created, would we have exited? Would it? No, and I'll tell you why. The only reason is because in that world that we were in, it was sort of startup Silicon Valley land. You get judged on revenue. No one cares. This is not an EBITDA business you're building in that game. And I think a lot of what would have happened with AI is we would have been able to shave. Like I was showing you, if you guys, audience didn't see this, but I created a video for the company, like a promo video, all like 3D animated, and I did it in 4 or 5 hours with VO 3.1. It was just Google's tool.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm not throwing them under the bus terribly. But that was a $20,000-$30,000 expense and 2 months worth of work that would have been in my previous in Rhythm. We would have spent that. So you would have seen a lot shaved off the bottom line, but nobody cared about that at that point. They weren't doing multiples of EBITDA; they were doing multiples of revenue.
You did that in hours or a day for tens of dollars. Right?
Yeah, I mean literally zeros of dollars. I didn't
dollars,
spend it.
yeah.
I mean, I guess the VO subscription was like $10. Yeah, so something like that.
Interesting.
So if you're a business, find a consultant. Really find a consultant that's use these tools. Mitch, which we've talked about on this program before, we started a company called Benchmark. Mitch built their website. It's interactive. It's got a lot of built-in functionality that would be something that you'd look at and go like, a professional built this website and we spent a lot of money on it. And Mitch did it.
What a great episode.
No, it wasn't a professional at all.
It was Mitch.
It wasn't professionally done at all.
Dog food salesman.
Yeah. But I cannot stress that enough. I mean, I'm not sure if you're consulting on the side, but if you aren't, you should be, because that is really the thing to do. It is the promise that you'll see out there is that you can do that. You can go build your own. It's still not like end to end really easy if you don't know what you're doing. They're like Lovable is one that makes it really easy. But just someone that kind of gets it is really all you need to just support you, and you can take these things end to end. It's a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient.
You're self-taught, and I think 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, you told me
8 months ago.
You told me before you came in here you're writing code today.
Yeah,
like you'd never thought that.
No, not a chance. No.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, as always, we feel like we have resources or can be a resource. Hit us up, shoot us an email or a message, and we'd love to connect you with some of the professionals and consultants that we found that can kind of be your Sherpa through some of this if we can't help you. But Josh, it's been fascinating. Really appreciate you.
And the company again is Lium.
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 That's it. Yeah.
Well, join us for the next episode. We'll take a much deeper dive into that or one of the future episodes. Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll catch you next time on Weeks Ahead AI.